Welcome, geeks, to another exciting episode of Rockin The Code World with dotNetDave. I'm David McCarter. I'm glad you're back. We were off for 2 weeks because Simon and I were working on the .NET Conference 2022, which was 3 days. It was last week, and we had a great time doing it. We had a lot of great sessions, a lot of great speakers, and looking forward to more conferences this year. Right now, the CSharpCorner is talking about the Cloud Summit, which hopefully will be in Europe this year, because I want to get the heck out of San Diego and go somewhere. I've been tired of being in my 10-mile bubble for, over 2 years now. So anyway, I'm glad you're all here. I have a special guest, somebody I've known for a while, Jeremy Clark. He's the guy on dependency injection, threading, all this kind of cool stuff. And so he's going to be on and catch up with him, because I haven't really talked to Jeremy since he decided to get married and move to Washington. So it'll be great to catch up. We miss him down here speaking at conferences and stuff like that. So anyway, let's get going. I want to announce next week's show is going to be a very, very special show, probably the most special show since I've been doing this show. And we're going to celebrate the day before the actual .NET 20th anniversary here on Rockin The Code World. And I'm going to have a very, very special panel show. Scott Hunter, number 2 guy at Microsoft Programming Land. Carl Franklin, which you all know, he's been around forever. Him and I used to play guitar at the top of the Marriott Bar every year in San Francisco back in the good old days of the late 90s, early 2000s. Now he does a bunch of stuff with Blazor. He's got the Blazor train. Longtime good friend, Steely Dan fan, as you all know. Joe from Phoenix, who runs the Phoenix Desert Code Camp. Known him for a long time. So Joe's going to be on. That's going to be great. Steve Ardelis Smith, very, very popular guy, is going to be on. I can't wait to have him back on the show. Carrie Payette. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her name correctly. I'm sorry. I spoke at a conference she was helping with her in Minnesota, I think. If I remember she lent me a guitar that I could rock out the gigs before I gave my session. So hopefully she wasn't there and saw what I did with the guitar, but that's a story for another day. Anyway, I hope you'll be back next week. It's going to be great. I'm sure I'll find something to give away and through CSharpCorner or myself, but it's going to be a special show. I have it right now scheduled for an hour and a half. Hey, from India. And we're going to be talking about, the early beginning days of .NET, the current days of .NET and the future of .NET. And with these big heavy hitters on the show, it's going to be really fun. Can you tell I'm excited? I'm very excited. So I hope you'll be back next week and join us for this very special show. It's going to be fun. So those of you in India and stuff, stay up late. Anyways, speaking of conferences and all that kind of cool stuff, last year I helped with the Azure Cloud Summit that CSharpCorner did, which I think had, Simon, correct me if I'm wrong, we had like close to 300,000 viewers or something like that. It was a crazy number. It was 11 days long. Oh, 297. Okay, I was close. 297 viewers of that conference, which is incredible numbers if you ask me. It beat the previous record, which was my one-day conference, which was I think like 64,000, something like that. So it was a great conference. 11 days. I really don't know how Simon was alive after those 11 days, but luckily he's young and can deal with it. I'd be dead after a couple days. But anyway, I think Simon on purpose sent my a gift for helping with the conference last, because I think he's just messing with me. So anyway, I finally got it a couple weeks ago, but I wanted to hold it and open it with all of you and see what Simon and the crew sent me for helping on this conference. And speaking of that, I just want to say that, I really like conferences that really recognize the speakers and the organizers and does something nice for them. It's something missing from American conferences, which I don't like speaking at American conference much anymore. I like speaking at overseas conferences because they take care of the speakers. They reward them. They at least say thank you. Most conferences I speak at in America, I don't even get a thank you, So anyway, so let's see what Simon sent me. And you're going to be experiencing this with me the first time. As you see, I'm opening this. I have not seen anything in here yet. So hopefully everything in here I can show on YouTube, Simon. Don't get us kicked off of YouTube. I got to see what Simon's saying. No plastic. I'm not sure what you mean by no plastic. All right, well, let's see. First, I got a shirt. CSharpCorner shirt. I hope it fits me because they always buy them in Indian sizes, and I'm not an Indian. I'm a 6'4" tall white guy. So hopefully that'll fit me because most CSharpCorner t-shirts I can't wear. Let's see. Oh, and Simon wrapped presents. Did you wrap all these presents, Simon? 152 presents. Wow. Wrapped presents. I've never seen that before. So let's open this. See what's in here. Oh, you taped it up like it's people can't get into it. Okay. Let's see. Drum roll. I wish I had a drum roll. Oh man, this box contains all kinds of cool stuff. Looky here. I got a nice little Cloud Summit. Oh, even has my name on it. Can you see that? Pretty cool. Wow. Thank you. That's really cool. I got lots of stickers, and Simon knows I like stickers. I put them over on my cases that I bring to conferences and stuff. So I'm always looking out for speakers and stickers. Let's see. I got another shirt. It looks like it actually will fit me. Awesome. Cloud Summit 2021. Awesome. Geeks need free t-shirts. All my t-shirts are geek t-shirts. I got a, let's see. I got a charger thingy, dongle. Yep. Okay. Also got a keychain. Awesome. Oh, it's a multi-USB charger. Okay, thanks, Simon. And is this your handwritten card here? Oh, I'm gonna read the note that Simon sent me. But he sent a nice handwritten note. Wow. I didn't know people wrote with their hands anymore. Okay, what else do I have to open? So much cool stuff. This is taking longer than I thought it would. Sorry. I'll go faster so we can get Jeremy on the show. Oh, I got my MVP award for 2021. Pretty cool. Cool. I like that. I put all my awards on my home entertainment center over there. Maybe I'll take a picture in the future and show you guys. And I think this is the last one. Another wrapped present. Boy, Simon, you're really good at wrapping presents. I'm not near as good. Let's see what's in here. Oh, it's got a ribbon on it and everything, and Cloud Summit stickers. You went all out, Simon. Let's see what this is. Ethnic wear. Man, you used a lot of tape on this, Simon. You didn't want any customs inspectors getting into this, I assume. It's okay. Oh, wow. Oh, awesome. I got this Indian shirt. Is that what this is, Simon? Like the one I wore at the conference? Yeah, Kurta. If I'm saying that properly, probably not. I love these shirts. So I have one that I actually bought when I was in India. And I wore it on stage. The last time I spoke at CSharpCorner, I think that was the last time I spoke, was wearing one that I wore in India. And now I have another one. Can I wear this in America and people not make fun of me? I don't know. Oh, there's something more in here. Oh my gosh, Simon. What's this? Oh, and pants. Wow. These are pants. Pajama in Hindi. Is that what? Yes, pajama in Hindi. Wow. I'll wear these tonight. Wow, Simon. Thank you so much. Thank you to Mahesh, CSharpCorner, the Cloud Summit. That was the most I ever got from a conference. I thank you so much. You know, it's the special things where I know this was a lot of work for Simon, but to me, you know, it's the little things that make speakers want to come back and be excited about speaking at a conference. And you know, I can't wait to come back to India. I don't think it's going to be this year, maybe later this year. We don't know yet. But I really want to come back to India. I miss India. I actually want to go back to the Ukraine, maybe not right now. But anyway, sorry that took so long, but I wanted to show all the cool stuff that Simon and the crew does, all the hard work they do, not only putting on the conferences, but taking care of the speakers too. So thank you, Simon. Thanks to everybody. And I can't wait to help out with more conferences at CSharpCorner, including speaking. I didn't speak at the one last week, but maybe later this year. I think we're going to have another code quality conference, right, Simon? And I'll be definitely speaking at that one. And I'll get Jeremy to come on, who's going to be our guest in just a second. So anyway, sorry, I'm overwhelmed. It's so nice. This is not my new CSharpCorner article, but it will be in a few days. So, you know, as I stated at the beginning of the show, .NET turns 20 years old next Sunday. And I wrote an article called A Look at 20 Years of Microsoft.NET, My First Enterprise Application and More. I'm going to take you on a little history of all the cool stuff I've been writing with .NET and of the projects that I liked working on and what I want to see for the future of .NET. And anyway, so that's actually ready. I did my final proof this morning, and I'm going to be submitting that to CSharpCorner. So make sure you go back to CSharpCorner this week, check out my article about 20 years of Microsoft.NET. Okay. With that, I'd like to bring on Jeremy. Jeremy helps developers by sharing his own struggles mostly in technology, but also with being more social as an introvert, understanding potential for learning, and playing banjo. Yeah, I forgot I was going to get Jeremy and to play like AC/DC or something, but I forgot to tell him. He has worked as corporate developer, as a chief improvement officer at a startup, and as a contract developer. Currently, he teaches developers through online courses, workshops, tech articles, conference talks. He spends most of his time in C# and has recently ventured into Go, Golang, and Rust to explore some of his favorite topics, which are interfaces, delegates, concurrency, and parallel programming. He's the expert at that to me in .NET world. So welcome, Jeremy.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Hey, sorry opening the presents took so long.
No worries.
I didn't know what was in the box, so I didn't know how long it was going to take. So welcome to the show.
Thanks. I have no agenda today, so I'm going to rely on you to be a great interviewer.
Well, no, then we're in trouble. Well, so Jeremy gave me some topic ideas when we set up the show. And so one of his topic ideas, you guys can let us know what we want to talk about. I know which one I want to talk about. Maybe we'll talk about that first. But he wanted to talk about learning Golang and Rust, learning new languages, programmers as under abstractors or over abstractors. That's the one I kind of want to do first. Parallel and concurrent programming, which is always a big deal in .NET, and how I see most developers do it completely wrong. So, one of the things I say with that kind of programming is buy a book, read it about 5 times before you even start coding, because you can really shoot your project. You can really screw up your project if you don't know what you're doing. And managing complexity as a C# language grows and changes on. So anyway, what do you guys want us to talk about first? So make sure you post your questions and let us know what you want to talk about, whether it's that or something else. It doesn't matter. This is your show. It's not my show. So I'd like to, I just want to catch up and, see how you're liking, living up in living up there in the north instead of Southern California, like where I met you.
Yeah, so it's a big change, and I got involved in the Southern California dev community back in 2010. So that was a long time ago, and I'm sure that's when we first met.
Yeah, I remember
at one of the code camps.
Yeah, I remember I forgot to get the video out, but playing video on PowerPoint through StreamYard is not that great anyway. But yeah, I remember that the first time I met you was you were willing to sit down and let me interview you for some video I was doing to promote code camps, I think. And I think that's the first time I met you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while. So I moved up to Northern Washington on the west coast of the US about 5 years ago now. It's getting pretty close to that. And way up north. I'm like 40 miles from Canada. So I can almost see it.
You get your health care up there? No, I'm kidding.
I wish. Oh, I know. Man. Don't get me started about U.S. healthcare, because I've been going through it recently.
I know. I just had to rejoin Covered California, and I'm not looking forward to it.
Yeah, I love getting involved with the developer community, and in SoCal I was really active, and it was kind of easy to be active in Southern California because there was so much traffic that there were user groups everywhere. So I think within like 80 miles of my house, there were 15 .NET user groups.
Yeah.
So as someone who loves to speak and share topics, there were tons of opportunities. Now, not so much. I live in a rural town. And it took me a while to come to terms with being rural. But when you drive past cows, cornfields, and chickens on your way to the Jack in the Box, Yeah, I'm rural.
Yeah.
So, and about an hour and a half from Seattle, about an hour and a half from Vancouver. So kind of the big cities are, kind of far away for, regular travel.
Yeah.
So, yeah, not having like a local user group to just go to
Hmm.
every month has been like that's been a bit hard on me. And as far
Is
as
the closest
speaking,
one like in Seattle?
yeah,
Yeah.
so there's two in Seattle. Well, I can't speak for right now because, but yeah,
COVID. Yeah.
there was one downtown Seattle, and that same group also had a meeting on the Microsoft campus back when people would go to the Microsoft campus. Yeah, and then there's one in Vancouver, which again, about the same distance, except it involves a border crossing. So
Oh yeah, that's got, and you got to show your card, your COVID card and stuff nowadays, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't gone across since they've reopened the border.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, but I've been again in the before times. I was kind of on the road like once a month, traveling to various conferences. Again, I love speaking. I love watching people learn. I love talking to new developers, or I'll say developers that are new to me. Not just people who are new.
Yeah.
And that's something that I really miss because it's been 2 years since I've been to an in-person event,
Me
and
too.
it's just been really, really hard. So, and then I did have something scheduled for the end of February. That was going to be like, woohoo, first time on an airplane in a while, and it just got canceled. So,
Yeah, I just saw that on your website. Yeah.
yeah, so right now it looks like my first in-person gig is going to be in April.
Mhm.
And so, I'm kind of holding out until then. I love the reach that you get with online
Yeah,
and the fact that it exists, but the interaction just is not the same.
I
So,
agree. I agree.
yeah.
In-person conferences are so much better, and
Yeah, and there's so much that you get just over dinner or
mhm.
hanging out in the evenings.
Or at the speaker's
Um,
dinner,
yeah.
Yeah. I remember last time, I think you and I were at a speaker's dinner for, I think that was Southern California. I'm sorry, the Silicon Valley Code Camp. I think you were there, or yeah, something like that. But yeah, it's the interaction at conferences is what I really miss, and virtual just does not cut it,
Yeah.
and yeah, you're right with the reach, including, the conferences that we do here at CSharpCorner or my show, the reach is pretty large, but, I definitely don't get as much out of it as I like, as I do in person, and,
Yeah.
and I complain all the time about traveling. I don't like the traveling part. I don't like the getting there part. I like being there,
Being there. Yeah.
yeah, especially when you fly to India and places like that. That's, the getting there part really sucks. Um, but being there is just, that's what I love doing, and I've said this so many times that, most conferences I go to, I don't even go to sessions. I network, I talk to people, and that's where I learn. I learn more
Yeah.
from not in the sessions than I do, you know, I doing, like kind of what you were saying, hanging out at a bar or dinner, or just hanging out in the hallway talking to people, and being an introvert, I think like you, I realized during these past 2+ years of not speaking is I actually got a lot of personal interaction because of that, right?
Hmm.
And I'm really feeling the lack of that, and the isolation kind of creep in really bad because I don't see anybody anymore.
Yeah.
I literally have not. I've left my 10-mile bubble once in 2.5 years. And it's getting to me. I'm sure it's getting to you
Yeah.
too.
It's rough. Yeah, and it's actually something that I've been thinking about for a long time. So if anybody has any ideas, send them
How
to
to
me.
make it better.
Jeremy Bites on Twitter, because in the before times, I actually grabbed a a domain name for isolated developer. And the idea was, again, I'm in a rural area. There are there's not going to be an in-person meetup around
Right.
me.
Right.
So is there a way that we can recreate that experience online? And I've done so much, like you said, when you're reading about me, one thing that I try to do is encourage people to talk to each other when they're at these developer events.
Me
And
too.
so I've spent a lot of time kind of watching how interactions work in person, and it just doesn't work over Zoom.
Mm-mm.
I know, like, if I get in a Zoom call with, 12 people in it, it's great that I get to see some people that I haven't talked to for years, but I'm reluctant to speak. And again, I'm an
Yeah.
introvert, and so I
Yeah.
usually listen and in the background, and I think about like how conversations work in a more natural way. So, like, even if you're at a big dinner where maybe there's 15, 20 people all sitting at a table, really there's a cluster of maybe 4 to 6 people around you.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you're like, okay, well, I'm over here talking to this circle of people, or I'm over
Mm-hmm.
here talking to this circle of people, and I can go back and forth. And then even like in those hallway conversations at conferences, like you're talking about, it might start out with a one-on-one, but then someone else joins, and then someone else joins, and someone leaves, and it's kind of this fluid thing
Mm-hmm.
that happens naturally. I've heard people say, well, they've got those private rooms in Zoom, but like, how
It's not.
awkward is that?
Yeah. It's
It's like,
yeah.
hey, do you want to go to a private area? It's like, no, I
Catch me
I
in the
just want to
private
have
room.
I want to have a natural conversation
Yeah.
with people. And so if anybody has any ideas, send them to me, because that's something I would love to figure out. Because, you know, I feel like when I was in Southern California and, in a metro area even, that's a privilege from that kind of interaction, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot more people that don't live in metro areas. And how
Right.
can we have like real human connections?
Yeah.
Because, even just attending a regular user group, I had my local user group that I would go to,
Mm-hmm.
and you'd see the same people over the course of 2 years, once a month. Not everybody's there every time, but you kind of slowly build these natural relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you do that if you don't have kind of that little in-person gathering? So I would love to hear ideas.
Yeah. Well, all my best friends in San Diego are from user groups.
Mhm.
That's actually I mentioned that very briefly in my article that's coming out this coming week. That all of my best friends are geeks or software engineers. And I met all of my top friends in San Diego at a user group meeting. That's where we met. And user and it's not, I don't even know what's going on with the user group down here anymore. And I know things have changed down here in Southern California. I don't remember the last time we had a code camp here. And so yeah, it's tough, this whole COVID thing and the isolation thing. But like you're saying, rural too. It's
Mhm.
and I live alone, and so I have my own challenges, and living alone, especially during a COVID, and you know, having to deal with COVID by yourself and have no one
Yeah.
to turn around and talk to, and it's tough. Yeah, it's I want to get back out there. I kind of made a crack about American conferences, but I definitely want to get back out during conferences again, and especially conferences in different parts of the world, because that's really where I want to experience those different. One thing I love doing. I don't know if you like this, but one of the things I really love about how my speaking career has taken off in the last 10 plus years is that I get to go to different states and different cities and different countries, right? And I get to meet these other developers that aren't in my local area, right?
Mhm.
And that experience to me is so interesting, how developers do things in different parts of the country or different parts of the world. And, or for example, like, 40% of developers in the Ukraine are women. We don't have that here in America, and so seeing those kind of things in live in person, I think has helped me a lot with my writing and trying to understand developers and trying to come up with topics that developers will like to listen to,
Yeah, definitely. I kind of pulled back on international conferences, just because of the travel commitment.
Yeah,
You know, it's
it's
like I
tough.
I will do them again eventually, kind of for I'll say in a focused way. So
Yeah.
conferences that are extremely appropriate for me and the type of content I'm interested in, the kind of content I speak about. So if something's really focused, then I'll consider it. But in it's so much easier to travel domestically
Mhm.
because, now basically once you start crossing more than 4 time zones, it's like, okay, well, I kind of need a couple days on the front
Yeah.
end.
Right. Right.
And then since I'm traveling all this way, I need a couple days on the back end to like see some things around here
Yeah.
before I go home. Whereas, if there's like a 2-day event that, so for example, I'll be going to Knoxville, Tennessee,
Mhm.
hopefully we can do this
Yeah, I've
in
spoken there
April.
before. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's actually one of my favorite conferences. It's, community run,
Mhm.
and, and it's a 2-day event, and so it's like I go there the day before, I leave the day after, and now that's a 4-day commitment rather than an 8 or 10-day commitment.
Yeah.
So it's, as much as I love it, it's just kind of like, well, I can do more if I have these shorter ones. And
Yeah.
I love the community conferences because like
Me too.
everybody is just so they're not there for making money. In fact, most
Right.
of the things I do are nonprofits,
Right.
and they're there because they believe in their local community. So
Mhm.
the one in Knoxville, they don't want people coming from all over the country to attend this conference. They
Right.
would like speakers to come from all over the
Right.
country to
Right.
share knowledge, but it's for the local community. It's like we have this city, Knoxville, that not too many people think of as a tech hub, but
Mhm.
let's build up this community. And the thing that's interesting is I've met so many people because organizers of other conferences speak at all of these conferences.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's like after a while, it's like, oh, you know what? I've been to like 12 conferences in the Midwest part of the United States, which is
Mhm.
really far away from where I live. But because I've again developed relationships with the communities and the speakers and the organizers over the years, it's just kind of like, oh, well, yeah, you're doing this thing, of course I want to come and support you,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's pretty cool,
Yeah. I always prefer community conferences, community run conferences. I don't really like the big ones anymore, especially since you guys have read my articles, they rip off speakers and, they don't treat us very well. And it's just a business. It doesn't feel the same, right? It's just making money, whereas community run conferences are run by people just like you and me,
Mhm.
and programmers actually do programming and not a corporation trying to make money, and I always steer people towards community run conferences before I do any paid conference. That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the other thing is that I am definitely in a privileged position to be able to do that
Yeah.
because it's expensive to travel, especially
Mhm.
when you're 6'6",
Tell me about it.
so it's
I
like
hate traveling in a
I
plane.
just don't fit in a regular airplane seat.
I
It's
don't
not
either.
possible for me to fit. So it's like, okay, well, airplane seats just got more expensive.
Yeah, and
And
I have to
again, the
upgrade all
community
my
events.
seats.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to upgrade all my seats. I have to go business class when I go overseas because I cannot fit in those seats when I go
Yeah.
overseas.
It's
You know,
really
yeah,
sad.
yeah. I,
So
I feel like I'm being discriminated against because I'm tall, you know, because I cannot fit in normal seats. My legs will not be
yeah.
happy. I'll have to get knee surgery after I go in a normal seat.
Yeah, I have been there. Yeah.
Especially the little planes, the prop planes. Oh my God, they're the worst. For or the little jet planes that you take from,
Mm.
just for little jaunts, to an airport. Those are worse. Oh my God. They're terrible for people, tall people like you and I.
Yeah.
The first time I went to India was through an Asian airline that the conference organized. And I looked at the seat and I go, no, there's no way I can fit in an Asian airline seat. They're just not made for a normal American, even a normal American height. So anyway, Let's talk a little bit about programming before the show ends, I guess.
Well, that was about being social and developer community, so that's important.
Well, we need social, we
Yeah.
need it, and I know I probably talk too much sometimes on the show is because I don't talk to anybody all week. I do my couple sentences a day for the Scrum meeting, and that's basically it. And I think I talk to Alexa more than I do a human these days. So anyway, the one thing no one's said what they want you to talk about. So the thing I was kind of looking at because of something I'm dealing with right now, is just, I'm dealing with a code base that is just, I don't even have a word for it. Spaghetti code doesn't even describe it, and but some of the things I've seen people shoot themselves in the foot with is abstractions, and doing it too far. I've seen, whenever something new comes down the pike, people go, "Oh yeah, let's do this everywhere." No, you do this where it really has impact on your project. You don't do it everywhere as a blanket statement. So anyway, let's talk about abstraction. Too much or too little.
Yeah, so kind of the way I got into this topic is because I talk about interfaces in C#. I would say that was my first major topic that I got into. And the reason for that is when I was new to development, and I'll say a fairly late starter. My first professional job, I was 29.
Yeah, I was late too.
I was kind of a hobby programmer before that.
Yeah.
I was a hobby programmer before that, but my first professional job was at 29. And I was learning, we were using Delphi at the time. And it has this concept of interfaces in it, fairly similar to C#. And that's because Anders Heilsberg wrote Delphi. And then later on,
he
created C#.
I didn't know he wrote stuff. He writes everything.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
here's the thing. So basically, we would go to the Borland conferences every year, and they had all the people that were building the compilers and doing the languages and things like that. And then you would kind of go back to the conference the next year, and there'd be people that were gone, and they would show up at Microsoft. So we saw like 5 or 6 of these kind of big people that ended up at Microsoft. And I remember we were talking to one. We ran into someone at another event. We're like, "So what was this deal about? Moving from Borland to Microsoft?" And he's like, "Yeah, they just drove up with a pickup truck full of money." Okay, I don't know if I should be sharing that
No, that's
story.
how Facebook is. There was somebody that worked in the Microsoft team that I really like. His name was Lucian. He was the guy.
Lucian Wischik. He is awesome.
He is awesome. Him. And Facebook drove up with a truck of money, and he left. That's the way it goes, I guess. Whoever has the most money wins.
Yeah. Anyway, the point is, Borland or Delphi has interfaces that are very similar to C# interfaces. But when I was kind of new to that professional programming, I didn't understand why I wanted to use these. I didn't know what they were for. Why do I want to do this? And like I said, we'd go to the Borland conference every year, and it was nice because my first year they would send the whole team to the conference, and I understood maybe 5% of what was going on that first time I went. But I did get some information. It was definitely a growth area. But I remember I went to this talk. It's like, oh, all about interfaces. And I'm like, okay, this will be good. I can sit here for 75 minutes and I'll know what these things are for. And kind of big brain guy gets up on stage and he's like, well, let's say you have an iFoo interface and you want to implement it with the bar class. And I was just like, no, don't give me a foo bar example. That's not going to help.
I hate that.
Yeah. So it was probably 2 years before I actually got it. And it was a slow process, and I was learning a lot of other things at the same time. But kind of once I finally got it, I was like, I have to help other people get over this hump, because people shouldn't have to go through this long period of what are these things for. And so I started talking about it at CodeCamp and writing articles, and eventually ended up with a C# interfaces course on Pluralsight. And it's just this thing I've been doing for 12 years, probably
Mhm.
12 years now.
Yeah.
But what happened was kind of when I first when the Pluralsight course came out, that's kind of when, kind of my stuff got recognition. And I would kind of get these messages saying, "Oh, this is really cool. I'm going to use it everywhere." It's like, well, no, because there's this tendency of, well, here's this thing that I don't understand. And kind of my initial goal was let me help people understand what this tool is.
Yeah.
But kind of in that initial iteration, I wasn't really considering um, using it appropriately.
Mhm.
So, that kind of turned into this other thing where I would talk about, appropriate levels of abstraction. And the thing that I found interesting is kind of as I was thinking about this, I found that from my observation, this is not a scientific study, that developers kind of default to be either under abstractors or over abstractors.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so I ended up defaulting to being an under abstractor. And one of the reasons is, again, when I was brand new to professional development, I didn't understand interfaces and abstraction very well. And so,
Mhm.
I kind of stayed away from it. It's like, well, I'm not going to use something I don't understand.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then to kind of compound that, I was working on this multi-year project, and the senior developers architected it badly, as putting it as nicely as possible. So what happened is this big project finally releases, and I end up as the primary support person on this.
Mhm.
And it actually made sense because I actually came from the user area. And so I had the best contacts with and it was something that spanned the entire company, all of the departments. So I had the contacts, I understood the business. So it made sense that I would be the one who was supporting this. But like every time I went in there, I'm like, I don't even know if this is going to recompile.
That's
It's
the
like
way I am
so-
right now with the
some
project I'm
library
on. Yeah.
version might have updated.
Yeah.
So again, having something like that happen early in my career also kind of makes me like, let's stick with simple. Simple is good. And so I would lean towards not having abstraction and hard coding things and things like that. I had a coworker who sat next to me, and he had like 10 years more experience than I did, and he was the exact opposite. He was
Mm.
always thinking about what how can we future proof this?
Yeah.
How can I build this plugin architecture for this thing so that, you know, 2 years
Mhm.
from now when they want this thing, we can just, oh, boop, there it is.
Yeah.
And so uh, I kind of ended up with this observation that people tend to go one way or another, and that's a
Yeah.
default state. And
Yeah.
so once you get experience and you find out, oh, yeah, what I'm doing isn't working, and then you basically swing the other way. And then you're
Yeah.
like, oh, that totally didn't work either. And
Yeah.
then you kind of end up somewhere in the middle. And when I say somewhere in the middle, it's really kind of having enough experience to know how much abstraction is appropriate for any particular application.
Right.
And I've been burned both ways. So like that under abstraction thing, the first application that I did solo, we had a small development team. It was 12 developers.
Mhm.
And so, mostly working on projects with 2 or 3 people. Um, I was given this solo project, which was, not very big. And my manager's like, "Hey, Jeremy, do you want to give this a shot?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah." And it was kind of moving a reporting system from an old reporting server system to a new reporting server system. And so as all the requirements were there, it's just kind of implementing this new server. And a mistake that I made on the front end was I used basically on the UI, a desktop application, I used a tabbed interface
Mhm.
where I hid the tabs. And so when you would click and say, oh, well, I want to run a report, then it would take you to a parameter collection screen, which was
Right.
just a different tab.
Right.
If I want to maintain a lookup table for a report, I go to one of the administration screens, which was just another tab. Well, what that ended up being was a single form with a lot of code behind,
Yeah.
and it wasn't bad in the sense that it worked.
Yeah.
But kind of anytime I had to make a change to it, it was like, oh, where is that code? It's like, okay, oh, geez, and I haven't looked at this for 6 weeks. And so my brain doesn't remember, where in these 3,000 lines of code I'm going to find
Right.
something. And then I would go back to it every so often and say, okay, well, let's see if I can refactor this a little bit, right? And let's split these up into separate screens that each have their own discrete functionality.
Right.
And then I'm like, oh, look at these global variables. And it's like, okay, well, unfortunately, the application didn't need to be changed very often, and it worked. And so, but again, every time I had to touch it, it was like, oh, yeah. So, I've done the under abstracting very badly. But what I found is that if you can find someone who is your complement on the other side, you make an awesome team.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like I said, there's this guy sat next to me, Dan, 10 years more experience than me, over abstractor. And so there are times where I'd be like, hey, Dan, come over, look at this, and I would be doing some, working on, whatever function. And he'd be like, well, you're kind of hard coding these things. You should probably think about separating those out. And I'd be like, yeah, okay, I get that. And then there are times Dan's like, hey, Jeremy, come over here, take a look at this.
Yeah.
And he's got kind of this big plugin architecture mapped out. And I'm like, so the users want these 2 things, and you're kind of planning on these 5 things that they might want in the future. So let's code for these 2 things, leave a space for the abstraction.
Yeah.
So you don't want to code yourself into a corner. So we'll leave a space for that, but we won't actually implement it until we actually have, something from the business area that says this is what we need.
Right.
Because, business areas always change their mind because business changes, right? So
that's true.
Yeah. So it's interesting. And so, I have this theory. I have no idea if it's true, but people kind of default one way or the other. And then unfortunately, there's no middle that you can say this works everywhere. It depends on the application.
Right.
How big is it? How is it likely to change? Where are the inflection points? Are there inflection points? Is this something that has to live for 2 weeks? Is this something that has to live for 10 years?
Right.
So.
Yeah, the project I'm on is definitely over abstracted because, they, I don't know the full story, but, I think, their unit tests were taking too long. So they decided to abstract everything into mocks and fakes and stuff like that. And oh my God, it is a freaking nightmare. If I just even change a spelling, like this happened to me the other Thursday, I changed a spelling mistake on one of the property names or something like that. They spelled address wrong, and I go, oh, well, we should fix this, so it looks better. Broke the build. Nothing would build. The unit test wouldn't run. Everything broke, and I had to back everything out, and this is what I was doing all week. I think I did actually 2 hours of actual coding this past week. The rest was dealing with stuff like this, right? It's because they went way too far, and it's a nightmare. I mean, every time I commit, I get PTSD, because I don't know what's going to happen, right? Because I can't run the unit tests locally because they don't run locally. They only run on the build server, and with all this abstraction stuff, it's it's crazy.
And you also have to balance that out and say, code was written at a point in time,
right?
And developers make decisions, and it might have been a decision that was appropriate at that point in time, and then years later, as the business changes or whatever, then that decision doesn't make as much sense as it did at the time. So yeah, it's really easy to kind of curse it. Oh, you developer from 6 months ago. Oh wait, that was me.
No, I'm sure there was a reason, but it doesn't work. Whatever that reason is, it doesn't work. Now.
And it's how do we get that, kind of nicely without having to rewrite, right? The dreaded rewrite.
Because having a company go, oh, okay, we messed up, we're going to fix it. That's not going to happen, right? It's literally a rewrite at that point, And you're right. We did have one question I want to get to before we go, because we're almost out of time already.
Okay.
What technical skill has helped you a lot in your career?
Technical skill.
Yeah.
Um,
Simon asked that, so he can expound more on that if he wants to.
These days I'm almost seeing that it's the social skills that help me most in my career.
Yeah.
Technical skills, I'm kind of a sponge when it comes to learning. And so it's hard to pick out like any one thing. Um, there's always this idea of you can be a generalist or a specialist,
Mhm.
and which way do you want to go? And I've known some people that are security experts. I knew someone
Mhm.
who was a security expert, would talk with I would be on phone calls with them, and they'd start talking with someone else who's a security expert. I had no idea what they were talking about. And you get this idea that this person's really smart, they must know everything. But
Mhm.
then I got a call one day from this person. It's like, Jeremy, can you help me with this data binding in WPF? And I'm like, I can totally do that,
Yeah.
because I'm a little more of a generalist when it comes to things.
Yeah.
Kind of what I focused on is kind of those things that were difficult for me to learn and became important in my programming career. So interfaces, I've already talked about that. Another
Mhm.
one was dependency injection. That was something
Yeah.
where when I first got it, when I first saw it, I'm like, I have no idea what this is.
Mhm.
And that's because everybody explains it inside out. They're like,
Right.
here's a container, good luck, rather than here's what the dependency injection patterns are and why we're doing this.
Yeah.
And the container helps you with that. So,
Well, you're
and
the one
then,
that got me. You're the one that got me interested in dependency injection.
well,
And I still have a hard time wrapping my head around it sometimes. But you're the one. I mean, you used to come to my user group and talk about it. And
yeah,
you're the one. I remember you showing that form and doing all the different data into it, or you changed. I forgot what you did, but yeah,
yeah,
I remember that still to this day. Yeah. So yeah. You're the one that
and
got
I
me on
think
that one.
async programming has been really important because that was one, like when Task was first added to .NET. I don't remember that when that even was. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
C# 4, 3, 4,
Mhm.
somewhere in there.
Mhm.
I saw it and I'm like, this is really important. But I would look at it, I'm like, oh, I don't have time for this. There's way too
Yeah.
much for this.
Yeah.
And then this is going back. Windows 8 came out, and everything was asynchronous in
Right.
Windows 8, and await is just scattered everywhere. And it's like, oh, I should probably learn what this is. But then digging into await, it's like, well, to really do await correctly, you need to understand task. Now, you
Mhm.
don't have to understand all of task.
Right.
You probably need to understand 2% of task,
Mhm.
and then you can go from there. And then that kind of led to parallel programming and things like that. So those are kind of the worlds that I live in. They're things that it's like I would approach it and say, oh, this is too big of a hill for me to climb right now. And
Yeah.
then I would get over the hill and be like, okay, how do I make this so it isn't a hill for other people? So
Mhm.
that's kind of been my focus on the topics that I'm doing.
Someone asked how you're doing, but I think you answered that at the beginning of the show. So rewind, and when we were talking about how Jeremy was doing, um, I think that's all the questions we have. Is there any? The one thing I wanted to ask you real quick before you go, because I don't know the next time I'll be able to talk to you, is so talking about interfaces and abstractions. What do you think?
Mhm.
Oops, sorry, I lost my earpiece. What do you think about .NET adding implementation and interfaces?
Hate it.
Yeah, me too.
Do you want the long story?
We don't have time for the
uh,
long story, but
yeah, I
yeah.
actually have recordings on my website talking about C#8 interfaces and the new features. And so I've
Mhm.
actually done some presentations at user groups because it's not just default implementation. A whole bunch of other things were changed as well that didn't
Yeah.
get mentioned.
Mhm.
And so I kind of go through, I've done some user group presentations that have turned into 2-hour code fests that talk about it. So if you're curious about the details of how I feel, go take a look at those. And
Yeah.
there's just there's so many things that you have to watch out for that I think it's totally not worth going there unless you have a very specific use case.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I played around with it a little bit, and I think I have one interface that does something, but that's about it. I've never used it like in a real production app. I've only used it in my own personal stuff.
Yeah.
And it does, I mean, it does get confusing in .NET now when these lines get so much blurrier, and it becomes more
Yeah.
confusing for developers, and like
That's my
there's,
big
yeah,
concern. Yeah,
yeah,
because the line between interfaces and abstract classes is really blurry.
right.
And if you actually dig into it, there's still a line there.
Yeah, right.
One thing is properties work completely different in interfaces
Sure.
than abstract classes.
Yes.
But as far as adding abstract members, you can do that. Adding code, you can do that. Why would you use one versus the other? That's a little blurrier again.
Mhm.
So yeah, how to teach this without confusing people has been definitely a challenge. I don't know how successful I've been. Hopefully I've been kind of okay with it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, I have another article that, I'll release after the one about the anniversary, and it's basically, something that Mahesh said to me, and so I did an article basically of what all the major differences are between an interface, a class, and a structure. I'm sorry, a structure, a class, interface, and a record,
Hmm.
right? And so I'm going to be talking about all those different things because I've never found like just one page that lists all the differences, you know, and um, and then I'm also at the end of it because I'm big into performance. I talk about There's big performance differences between those, and those kind of considerations should come into play maybe if you're choosing to do a structure, or I'm sorry, not interfaces, a structure or a class, right?
Mhm.
And um, and yeah, yeah. So lots of different things going on. But we got to go. Simon's going to get mad at me because he wants to go to bed. Um, uh, Someone said you're an awesome teacher. You should do a YouTube channel for C Sharp. Do you have a YouTube channel?
Yes, I am Jeremy Bytes online, Bytes. If you go out to YouTube/Jeremy Bytes, you will find videos that are 10 years old. I do have videos that I want to do right now, in
Mhm.
particular about channels in C Sharp, as well as about async enumerable. The
Yeah,
problem is this pandemic has just it's killed my motivation.
yeah,
So
yeah. I'm
I,
with
I
you on
am
that
I
one.
will get those done at some point. I really would like to get back into producing videos. Now the
Yeah.
good news is the videos that are out there are still relevant. So
Mhm.
about task and await, about delegates, about um, generics,
Mhm.
so it's all still relevant, even though it's .NET 4 point something.
Yeah.
Um, but and then I'm actually thinking about going back and just updating those videos so that they're in, .NET 6 or whatnot.
Yeah. Okay, I really have to let you go now. But before I let you go, there's always two things I ask my guests before they go. First is, I kind of know the answer to this, but what do you like to do for fun?
Can you see behind me?
Yeah.
So there's Lego back there.
Mhm.
So this is, I don't know if this is for fun, but this is for surviving the pandemic. The
Yeah.
other thing that I started doing pretty much after I moved up to Washington is, for some reason, I started collecting 1970s science fiction books.
Oh,
So
that's cool.
I've been, and I've been reading them. So
Mhm.
I have probably 400 books right now.
Wow.
I've read about half of them, and I'm still reading more and still going to, thrift stores and used bookstores and things.
Do you have a 3D printer?
I do not have a 3D printer.
Yeah, I've been thinking about getting one. And for some reason, the other day, I was thinking, man, I can make my own Legos with a 3D printer.
I don't know if you get the same tolerances.
Yeah, I
So
know. I know. But I kind of, a lot of people have been posting these things they've been building, these kits they've been building, with Legos on, Twitter. And I go, Man, back in my days, all we had were blocks and wheels and people. That's it. We had to use our imagination back then. Now you just plug them in and boom, there you go. But they're still really cool. Yeah.
These are all kits back on my shelf.
Yeah.
One thing that's nice is it's kind of I'll say a meditation type activity, because you're following instructions and putting things together.
Yeah.
The other good thing is you learn a lot of building techniques from it.
Mhm.
And so I've started fairly recently doing, my own creative stuff. So like I modified a castle yesterday, a castle kit yesterday. And I have some ideas of some other things now that I've kind of have a better idea of how some techniques that you can use for building. So I'm probably going to be doing some more creations of my own soon.
I need to get back into Legos. I'm actually getting more into art projects. I'm actually working on a painting right now that you guys will not believe when I show it to you when it's done what the canvas is. I'm not going to have you guess, because you won't guess it. I believe me. All right. I got to let you go. Thanks a lot for being on the show. Do you want to plug your website, jeremybytes.com, right?
Yeah, so jeremybytes.com, BYTES, and you can find me on Twitter at jeremybytes. You can find me on YouTube at jeremybytes, and hopefully there'll be some new videos up there sometime soon.
Well, it was great catching up with you, and I hope
Yeah.
if they have an MVP summit, you're still an MVP, right?
Yes.
So
I don't know if I'm going to get renewed this year or
Yeah.
not.
Well, that's what I think
I've been
every
in
year,
I've been an MVP for 10 years, and I'm
Yeah.
thinking, well, maybe it's time to let it go. We'll see what
Yeah.
happens.
Well, I hope to see you sometime soon.
Yeah.
And well, we all miss our friends during COVID, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you want to hang out and chat after the show, you can. With that, I better let you go, because Simon's going to get yelling at me here any second. So thanks a lot for being on the show. You're welcome to come back anytime you want. Just let me know. I'll put you on the show.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
Great. Thanks, Jeremy. That was fun. We talked a lot, and not a lot about programming, just about dealing with the pandemic and COVID and isolation. And I definitely feel what Jeremy's feeling, that's for sure. So anyway, I'm glad Jeremy was on the show. I hope to get him back. I definitely want to get him back for a future conference here at CSharpCorner. So everybody wins a copy of Code Rush from DevExpress. For being on the show, just go to devexpress.com/dotNetDave. You get a free real copy of Code Rush from DevExpress. Code Rush is the only refactoring tool I've used since Visual Studio came out. I love it. It helps me, get my job done a lot quicker. It helps me learn. And, something, if you follow me on Twitter, I've been saying lately, is that not only can it run unit tests faster than Visual Studio can, but it can actually, a lot of times lately when I go to Visual Studio and say, hey, run this class, it just says, yeah, not going to run it. I go to Test Runner, which is part of Code Rush, say run it, runs fine. So I usually use Test Runner to do my unit testing these days, because it works better than whatever Visual Studio is doing. All right. Don't forget, I have a Coding Standards book out there. If you don't have Coding Standards at work, you need this book to get you started. So go to Amazon, pick it up today. I haven't sold any in a couple months, so I hope you go and help my retirement fund. Also, I have a GoFundMe page to help raise money for the kids in India, the orphanage that I visited back in 2019 when I was there. So I've already raised almost $500 with this GoFundMe. So if you want to help out the kids, please go there. I'll donate it to the Voice of Slum, or you could just go to thevoiceofslum.org and donate yourself. The kids really need your help. I actually got an email from one of the organizers this week I need to follow up on, and they're doing a lot of great work for the kids in India, the slums in India, which I visited when I visited this orphanage. And so please help the kids. All right, thanks for watching. Next week, is the big show, the 20th anniversary of .NET show. It's going to be big and fun, and I'm really looking forward to it. I don't think I'm going to be able to sleep the night before. So Scott Hunter, Carl Franklin, Steve Ardalis-Smith, Joe, and more are going to be on the show. We're going to have a lot of fun and look back at all of .NET in the future, and I can't wait for the show. I know Scott's really excited about it too. So I hope you'll join us all back here next week, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Please be safe. Listen to your medical professionals about COVID and how to deal with it. You know, we're still, the last time I looked on the news, we're still having 2,500 deaths a day here in America. We just hit 900,000 deaths in America. So please, please, please be safe. We want you back here to watch the show. We want you back to attend a conference on CSharpCorner. If you, most of you have this ability, please go donate blood at your local blood bank. All the blood banks around the world are in a shortage right now. They're in dire need of your blood. So please go donate. One donation can help 3 people live. So all it takes is about 30 minutes of your time, a stick in the arm, and that's about it. So it's free, it's easy, it makes you feel great about helping your fellow human. And I always say this for the people, I shouldn't say guys, but the people at home that have to do yard work and stuff like that in the weekend, if you donate blood, you can't do that for 24 hours. You can sit around and watch sports if you want. So please go donate blood. You know I'm big into it. I just hit, I think, 14 gallons total donated, and I'm actually donating tomorrow. So I'll be hooked up to the machine for 2 hours because I do the super donation stuff. So do that. Please email I can't talk. Email your suggestions, who you want to be on the show, what you like about the show, what you don't like about the show, to Rockin The Code World at CSharpCorner.com. With that, I'll see you next week for the big show. Thanks.